Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council members, city officials, and streaming audience. I would like to welcome everyone to the March 27th City Council meeting. We have 10 items on our agenda this evening, and we're meeting here in chambers for public attendance, and we are streaming live on YouTube.
President Geringer,
Ms. Preston?
I would like to make a motion to have an interim clerk, Mrs. Lamb.
Motion by Ms. Preston, seconded by Ms. Henderson. Roll call on the motion for Ms. Lamb as interim clerk. Payne?
Yes.
Barnes?
Yes.
Nickerson?
The clerk is absent, and this is a vote for an interim clerk. Ms. Lamb, yes.
Henderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Greg Phillips?
Yes.
Anthony Phillips?
Yes.
Prohl?
If you're willing to take the reins, yes.
Motion passes. Moving forward, if you would, Ms. Lamb, please continue with the roll call of the members.
Greg Phillips,
Here.
Kathy Payne,
Here.
Nickerson,
Here.
Barnes,
Here.
Henderson,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Preston,
Here.
Anthony Phillips,
Here.
Prohl.
Here.
At this time, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The minutes of the previous meeting have been distributed for review. Do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes at this time? And if not, do I have a motion to accept the minutes as they are? Motion by Mr. Brown, seconded by Ms. Henderson. Roll call on the motion to accept the minutes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
The minutes have been accepted. We'll now have a presentation by Ty McBee in relationship to the Ross County Trail Initiative as an update and to be respectful of his time. Mr. McBee, if you would please continue.
Thank you. Well, I'm Ty McBee, and I'm with Chiillicothe Trails, which is a small nonprofit here in Ross County. Our mission is to grow the trail base that's here, to have a unifying voice for trail development here in Ross County. It does represent the 5 non-motorized trails, so horse, water, rails to trails, mountain biking, and hiking would be your 5 non-motorized trails. So I wanted to present the Trail Initiative, which was a project that we kicked off last May and produced a trail vision in November. And so I want to be able to share that with the community. The background with this, we were awarded a grant, a Trail Accelerator grant, which is from the International Mountain Bike Association. And with that grant, we had IMBA trail planners come to the community and helped assist us in putting together a trail plan. This was mostly focused on mountain biking, but we envisioned this would be one module of many modules as we develop trails in our community. This planning efforts took place in May through July of this past year. We published the results in November, and that's what I'm summarizing here for this group today. The goals for this were, we wanted to have something that was community focused, so it developed a community. It helped us in developing or providing a platform for community health. Also having destination quality trails. We've got some really great trails in the community. The challenge sometimes they're just not quite that destination quality, and that was an overarching goal or vision for this trail plan, is we wanted to have something special. Also economic development, tourism. I mean, we wanted to see this plan help foster those things for the community as well, and then maximize our land assets. I don't know if you know, we've got over 35,000 acres of public ground that's available in Ross County, and we feel that we probably have some ways to go to be able to maximize those assets. The progress in this wasn't just a fly-by-night. This started back basically in 2016, 2017. There was an overarching trail vision that was published at that time for the 5 non-motorized trails. And we understood what our strengths and what our weaknesses are, and we tried to create some strategies. And out of that is really why Chiillicothe Trails was born as a nonprofit, as a group that would continue this vision and hopefully develop it over the years. We had some successes in 2018 working with the Ohio Horsemen's Council and also with DNR to expand some trails out in Great Seal. And I know a couple people in here I've seen ride those trails, and they're pretty spectacular. We just want to be able to take that to the same level, take it to that level with all the non-motorized trails that we have. We started hosting an event called the GPS 100. We had people from all over the country that comes to that event, and it's a super tough event. We're excited about having that again this year in 23. And then what's really near and dear to me is we launched NICA in the last couple years, where we have youth riders. They're middle schoolers and high schoolers that now have a mountain bike team here in Ross County. And so we're excited to have that, because it really is the base for how we're going to develop going forward, is you have the youth that are involved in that sport. DNR helped facilitate a plan back in 2018. It was published in 2019, called the Ohio Trail Vision. One of the goals of that Ohio Trail Vision was to have 4 destination quality trails that qualified for International Mountain Bike Association designation. We believe we have a site here in Ross County that would meet that criteria, and that's what the little map, it's kind of hard to see, but there's 3 criteria in this map. Close to a population center and an airport, has at least 500 feet of relief, meaning the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill is at least 500 feet. And then there's also greater than 1,500 acres of land. You need enough land to be able to really produce enough miles of trails to be a destination. So here are some of the highlights that came out of this trail initiative. It's not a small plan, I will warn you. It's a $9 million investment is what we're projecting to create these assets for the mountain bike plan. Great Seal is $2 million, Scioto Trails $3 million, and we recommended a $4 million investment in Tar Hollow. This results in 35 miles of shared use trail. So you think of hikers and bikers sharing those pathways. 22 miles of bike optimized single track, and 37 miles of downhill flowing mountain bike trails. That's the thing that will bring people from all over the state to come to Ross County to ride our trails. And we've got the relief and the land assets to do that. Our objectives were, identify what's the highest priority. And we've done that through this plan. We believe Great Seal, Scioto Trail, Tar Hollow, Buzzard Roost, and Paint Creek are really the assets that we need to develop first. We wanted to locate corridors between the community and the sites. We want people to be able to come from the downtown and get out to Great Seal. We want to make sure that the towns are connected to these assets, because we want people to come when they ride their bikes. They also come into the downtown and eat dinner afterwards and have a drink afterwards. Our third objective was to develop zone-based set of recommendations for those top 3. So we got a little more specific at Scioto Trails, Tar Hollow, and Great Seal. And so I'll dive into one example real quick. Just so you know, I probably should have put this at the beginning, but here are some of the trail examples. When I said multi-use, these are typically little wider corridor trails. You can walk them, you can bike them, and even at some of our areas, we also have equine on these trails as well. Bike optimized are typically mountain bike specific, because they're really flowy trails. They're downhill, they have berms, they have jumps, but those are the things that mountain bikers really like to travel for. Pump track's another example. and you'll hear, I think, more about that hopefully in the next year or so. It's a smaller, condensed area that specifically kids and really kids of all ages can get their bikes, and it really helps teach the basic skills, and you know, a lot of fun as well. And then there's skills parks, and these are rocks or ramps or drops and different kind of skills. So those are kind of some of the examples. This gives you an example of the zone-based plan. We pondered 5, and I know it's hard to see, I'll try to verbally talk through it. 5 of the 48 compartments that are in Chiillicothe Trails have trails right now. And we pondered those compartments would be the ones that we would work with DNR to really make those trails much better. They're historical trails, and a lot of times they're fall line type trails, straight up the hills, straight down the hills. They're not flowy. They don't go with the contour as much as you'd like to see. And so they're just not destination quality. On the right-hand side, it's a very detailed list of kind of a high, medium, and low cost structure on what it would be for each mile of trail, depending on what type it is. And so that's what we got to with Chiillicothe Trails, Great Seal, and Tar Hollow. That's where those dollars came from. IMBA helped us to come up with that budget. Here's the current state. So we started talking to DNR in November once we were almost complete with the plan to review it and ask for a memorandum of understanding so that we could then pursue the Appalachian Community Grants. So many of you, I'm sure, have heard there's $500 million that's coming to 32 Appalachian counties, and we had intended, in order to fund that $9 million, we would have to go over some dollars like that to do it. January 11th, we met with the director of DNR, and at that point in time, they just couldn't support the trail initiative on forestry managed property. And that's really what our plan had pondered, was to be there, because 63% of the total land mass is on forestry property. They did give us some recommendations, and we're working through how we go next steps with that around property acquisition and also working with their parks. And then we're working with the Ross County Parks too to see what we can do on some of those land masses that aren't already programmed. And then what I'm mostly here for as well is to inform, the public and our leadership, but also ask for advocacy support. I'm working with Ohio Trail Partnership, and they represent the 5 non-motorized trails across the entire state. And we actually have an advocacy day on Wednesday of this week. And so we'll be meeting with our legislators and hopefully, building the advocacy for this trail development here in Ross County. So the next steps for me, building that awareness. At the end of the day, I would love to call this a trail community. And I'm hoping that we can start to build that momentum and really look at ourselves as a trail community. So it takes awareness, it takes support to be able to do that. We'll advocate with DNR. We look at DNR as our partner. We've developed trails in Great Seal over the last 5-6 years, and they've been a super partner. We just need to be able to step it up and take the next level with forestry. Evaluate other opportunities. If we can't get there, we still want to be a trail community. And so what are the other opportunities of land that we can utilize to grow the trails? And then obviously funding opportunities. Now is a great time because there's a lot of dollars that are available through grants, and now's the time. If we're going to strike, we probably have to do that now. So with that, I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McBee. We'll now move to reports of the committees. We'll begin with our Community Affairs and Transit Committee, both chaired by Mr. Greg Phillips.
Thank you, President Geringer. At this time, Transit and Community Affairs, we have no agenda items and therefore nothing to report. Thank you.
We'll now move to Human Resource Committee with Ms. Payne.
Thank you, President Geringer. Human Resources, we do have 2 items on the agenda this evening. First is item number 3, and it appears as a second reading. This is an ordinance to establish pay scale for part-time summer and fall seasonal employees. It should say third read. It was on March 13th's agenda as a second read. So I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda this evening to move this to a third read.
Motion by Ms. Payne, seconded by Ms. Henderson. Roll call on that motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We also have item number 10 on the agenda. This is a resolution confirming the appointments of Stacy Porter and Drew Musser to the Design and Review Board. This committee met on 3/22 to discuss these assignments, and this was assignment number 23-034. Stacy Porter is currently a member of the Design and Review Board, and this is a reappointment for her. Drew Musser was recommended by the DRB to replace a board member, Craig McGarvey, who can no longer serve. Mr. Musser and his wife recently finished an extensive restoration in our historic district at the Willis James House. When we do get to this on the agenda, I will ask that we waive the 3-read rule, and that is because the DNR board does not currently have enough members to vote, and they need to move forward on some items. A third item on the agenda this evening, we did have a special committee meeting earlier this evening on, that was assignment 22-102, City Council representation pertaining to the Ohio Revised Code 705.72, and the committee did vote not to move forward with this item. That concludes my committee report. Thank you.
We will now move to the Development Committee with Ms. Nickerson.
Thank you. Development has one item on the agenda, number 8, for a first read, an ordinance approving the action of the Planning Commission of the City of Chiillicothe in approving the final plat for the Countryside Meadows subdivision, accepting the public rights of way and easements granted within that subdivision, and declaring an emergency. And that's all we have to report. Thank you.
Next, our Finance Committee with Mr. Anthony Phillips.
Council President, Finance has nothing on the agenda tonight. No committee meetings to report on. That concludes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Park and Recreation Committee with Ms. Henderson.
Thank you, President Geringer. Parks, Rec, and Tourism has 5 items on tonight's agenda, 4 of which are for street closures. The first annual Brew Fest, a prom mock crash training, National Day of Prayer, and Oktoberfest. And, the 5th one is also a street closure, and that is for the Feast of the Flowering Moon. We had a committee meeting earlier this evening on the following items, which were approved. Street closures for Yellow Day, Maker's Fair, the Prom Mock Crash, Oktoberfest, National Day of Prayer. And then we also spoke on funds for floodlight replacement, which is an acceptance and an appropriation. A couple of quick announcements. I'd like to say a happy retirement to a longtime Parks and Recreation employee, Mr. Valentine. This coming Saturday is the Howard Hanna Easter Egg Hunt. And then April 8th will be the Rare Blood Motorcycle Club Easter Egg Hunt as well. The Ross County Parks District is going to hold an open house also this coming Saturday at Buzzard's Roost from 6 to 12 p.m. Adena Mansion and Gardens will be opening April 5th. There is a new hiking trail coming that will connect Great Seal State Park and Sugarloaf Amphitheater. For those who are not familiar with the name of the amphitheater, this is where Tecumseh is performed. So this trail will be open from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. daily. So if you go to attend Tecumseh, you have some spare time, you can go take a hike along there. Absolutely beautiful area. And then Tecumseh will open June 17th. Tickets are on sale, and some nights are already starting to sell out. So if you're interested in going this summer, get your tickets now. And then the last thing that I want to announce is to stay up to date on all the activities between Chiillicothe and Ross County, which we have a lot going on this year. This is a very exciting time for Chiillicothe and Ross County. Please visit the Visitors Bureau website. And we also, for those who don't know, Chiillicothe has an app that has all of these events listed on there, different announcements, wayfinding, all kinds of really neat things. So please check out the Chiillicothe app. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Next to our Safety Service and Transit Committee. I apologize, I assigned that to Ms. Preston and accidentally called it for you, Mr. Phillips. Ms. Preston.
Thank you, President Geringer. We had a committee meeting this evening at 5:15. We had 3 items on the agenda for the Safety Service Committee. One was accepting a insurance refund for a police cruiser in the amount of $26,546.71. That has been asked to be moved from the insurance claims check line to the police capital vehicles. That was approved by my committee. We also had an assignment requesting for a backhoe cat trade-in, and that was approved as well by my committee. And we also had a request to accept and appropriate money received by the police department for their participation in a mental health first aid training course that was held by the Adam Board. And that was also approved to be moved into the training line item. We also had a request from Mayor Feeney to adopt a resolution to participate in the Ohio Department of Transportation State Route 772 paving project. ODOT will be completing a paving project on State Route 772, with a portion of that project being in the city limits on Paint Street. And that was also approved. It'll involve improvements to State Route 50 West and East Main Street, including partial depth pavement repair improvements to State Route 772 South Paint Street. So that was approved as well. We do not have any other items on the agenda tonight, and that'll be all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to our Utilities and Engineering Committees, both chaired by Mr. Prohl.
The Utilities and Engineering has an item on tonight's agenda, which is at third reading, and this is a resolution authorizing the appropriate city officials to apply for and enter into an agreement with the Ohio Public Works Commission, the OPWC grant funds program for the year 2024, and accepting grant funds if awarded and declaring an emergency. And that concludes my report.
From there, we'll move to reports of our officials. In the absence of our mayor, we'll move directly to our auditor, Ms. Spetnagel.
There's 2 items on the agenda that I wanted to address. Item number 2 is a second reading, and I'm going to request that we waive the 3-read rule and get that passed. That is to reappropriate funds that were in the 2022 budget. The Utilities Department has started those projects, and we need to get invoices paid, so I'm going to request that that gets done tonight. And then item number 3, an ordinance establishing the pay scale of the part-time summer. I think that that's the one that Mrs. Payne talked about. That should be third read, but we just need to make sure that gets passed so we can get those positions posted so we can work on getting those seasonal people hired. The city was selected for a fire and pension audit. We did get that audit completed, and there was no issues found. I just wanted to let you know that you should be receiving something from the state auditor, a draft and the final report of that. So if you have questions, you can call me and let me know, and I can go through that with you. And then lastly, I'll be holding a budget review on April 10th at 6:30 here in council chambers. And that concludes my report.
Now moving to our law director, Ms. Villarreal.
Thank you. We're still consistently doing what we've always done, continue with the cases and drafting all this legislation. We do have some additional changes to existing laws that we're currently addressing, and in order to ensure that we're compliant, which is there's a lot of really big changes, and it's very important to all the court cases, not just municipal court. I'm going to be attending the Ohio Prosecutor Association attorneys training in April, so I'll get that information and bring it back to the city to make sure we are compliant with those new laws. And
my report.
Thank you. Moving now to audience participation. Council Rule 22 does limit each speaker to a 5-minute presentation and a total limitation of 15 minutes per any single subject. If you get to the point where you're getting close to 1 minute left, I will try to indicate to you so that you can summarize your presentation. Anyone who wishes to speak, we do need for our records your name and address.
Got this down.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am here as a representative of the Caboose Maintenance and Restoration Fund, and my name is Cindy Stevens. And I'm coming here to ask for your support for funds to help refurbish the wooden caboose at the top of Yoctangi Park. Extensive research has taken place to maintain the integrity of the restoration. We have already completed the bidding process, and our estimates are more than we expected. Our organization has applied to the David Mead Massey Trust, and they have conditionally granted us $8,500 to be used for finishing the painting. The paint is a special paint because we're trying to stay with the integrity of the caboose. Our goal is to be completed with this project before cold weather, since the paint needs to be painted during nice weather. The restoration requires many custom pieces that needs to have a responsible contractor to complete. The roof requires a special panel to be made on site. The wood replacement and roof will be completed at the same time. We're asking for $30,000 from Chiillicothe City Council. Our committee is planning on having the work to start in July and be completed as soon as possible. The city owns them, and they have never attended to any of the exterior maintenance. They have assisted with some small projects, but the project is bigger than they can accomplish. How did this impact our community? Chiillicothe was a major hub for the B&O Railroad, employing over 1,000 workers. The shops would maintain engines, cabooses, dining cars, and baggage cars. Our depot was a great help in maintaining all rail cars. The B&O Railroad also helped provide supplies for World War II. The B&O was one of the first railroads to come west. The B&O Railroad made connections to other states, West Virginia, Indiana, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. The cabooses provide the history of how the Chiillicothe station provided the move west for transportation. Today, the railroad beds are now extending a hand to travelers that ride bikes, walk, and running, just to name a few. Many families have supported these cabooses over the years. Many families have made donations of railroad items that are on display at the cabooses. Over the past 20 years, they have operated only on donation. The COVID hit. With its health issues in 2020, 2021, and 22, the operation of the cabooses came to a standstill, and so did the funding. We are reaching out to our community to show support that the cabooses are preserving the past and building the future. The time to act is now. The exterior of the wooden caboose needs extensive repairs and a new roof to keep its traditional exterior. Our committee has been working on our social media exposure and now have a Facebook page, an email address, a P.O. box, and a GoFundMe page, and have joined the Chamber of Commerce. Big moves for our group. Pardon? Okay. We believe that we can add to the tourism in Chiillicothe and continue to tell the stories of the rails. 911, this is an emergency. 911, what is your emergency? we have an immediate need for the $30,000 to refurbish the wooden caboose. We hope you feel the same way. Thank you. Oh, one last thing. In a couple days, we collected 321 signatures to support the cabooses on a petition.
Ms. Stevens. Ms. Stevens. Yeah. So, Ms. Wilkes, I have to apologize. I forgot to announce a committee meeting earlier when I had my report for April 10th at 6:15 p.m., specifically to discuss the assignment on the cabooses. I apologize for not announcing that sooner.
I'm John Pittenger, 114 Applewood Drive. Cindy stole a lot of my thunder, but that is fine. I'd like to have, first of all, those people that came tonight that are in support of the caboose are volunteers just to stand up. And I've been a volunteer for probably 4 or 5 years before COVID. And then last year we got going again after COVID. And as Cindy said, our return has been diminished with donations, but we still get people. We get people from Indiana. I was there this past fall. We had people from West Virginia, like I said, Indiana, Pennsylvania, that stopped in. A lot of them stopped in before or after Tecumseh the next day and enjoyed the cabooses. Caboose is something you don't see anymore. I mean, I have children. I'm sure you have grandchildren and children who've never seen a caboose on a real train. The only ones they've seen is in a museum or a picture somewhere. Here in Chiillicothe, we have 2 gems. We have a 1927 wooden caboose. We have a 1979 metal caboose. The wooden one is set up exactly the way it would have been seen, would have been in. It has a wood stove, coal stove. It has an ice box, not a refrigerator, an ice box. It's set up the way it was. And that was done by John Stevens and his wife, Donna Stevens, back in about 05, 06. Complete renovation. We got pictures of all that renovation there. So this is just something that we really need to continue. Chiillicothe had a tremendous railroad yard at one time. I mean, I'm actually young enough to remember the depot and the station and still seeing locomotives across Paint Street. And also before the underpass was there on Main Street, I remember my dad having to stop for those trains. And Chiillicothe was very important in the industry with the railroad. So something we really need. We had the DT&I, N&W, B&O, all of those here in Chiillicothe. So just something, again, to support this. I just think it's something that we really need. We have in there, we have a 500-pound bell off a train. We have pictures of when the depot and all the railroad yard was there in Chiillicothe that people can come and see those things. We have a telegraph, a working telegraph. We have a model railroad. We have lanterns that people have donated. All these items. We have the actual dinnerware that they ate when they were on the B&O. We have 3 different types of dinnerware during different periods of time that they used on the railroad. If these cabooses are not there, people are not going to see these things. If they fall apart, we won't ever have them. I don't know what we would do with them. I guess donate them to somebody. But a lot of people have donated their time and effort and these items to the Caboose Museum. The metal one is the museum, and the older one in the back is set up to be like it was back in the day. Thank you.
My name is Diane Carnes. I live at 2 Turnberry Lane in Chiillicothe. I was on City Council, sitting where you all are, when the city acquired those. Were you on then, Mr. Prohl? Or is that afterwards? You're not as old as I am. That's okay. It was quite an effort to obtain those cabooses. And the people who were so adamant to get them were families of railroaders. My father and my grandfather were on the railroad. My grandfather was an engineer, and my father rode in a caboose. Cindy's parents, in-laws, were so helpful in doing this. So many of those people who 20 years ago were for this have now either totally retired or passed away. And so I don't think there's any building that the city owns that they've allowed to go into this disrepair. So I would encourage you to support this and take care of a building that you all already own. Thank you.
My name is Jeannie Dowler, and I've been with the caboose since the early 1990s. I want to let you know that we have had schools of children come. There's a book in the back that we actually read to these children, where the seats are back there and they can sit, and they're very entertained by that. And the teachers have congratulated us on having something and caring about the young children. I have done that many, many times. I also want to add that the wooden caboose that we want to repair must be repaired. That caboose is only one of about 100 left in the United States. And here in Chiillicothe, we have one. It's worth saving. I ask you, please help us to do this and help us to keep the railroad alive here in Chiillicothe. Thank you.
Ma'am, could you provide your address, please?
Yes, I'm at 624 Arch Street here in Chiillicothe.
Thank you.
My name is the Reverend Terry Williams, and I live at 47.5 East Main Street here in the city of Chiillicothe. And my granddad was a railroader, even though he was with the C&O. I won't hold that against the B&O folks here. You can sign Miss Stevens' petition if you are here in the audience. I'm not here for that purpose. I did want to raise, before I get to my main point, a question about item 2 on the agenda. Item 2 is listed as a second reading, but I believe it should be a third reading, and I just lift that up to the powers that be, whoever need to know that, because I think there would be a problem if you tried to waive a 3-read rule on an item
That was amended at the beginning of the meeting by Ms. Payne.
No, that's I believe item number 3 that was amended.
Was it 3?
Yeah,
okay,
number
so 2 is as well.
What I'm
All right,
speaking
thank
about,
you.
President Geringer. Number 2, which is an ordinance reappropriating funds. That actually wasn't spoken on at this meeting or the previous meeting by whoever's committee it's supposed to be in. So it'd be interesting to hear about that. But what I am here to mention is Special Assignment 22-102. We came to the first meeting of that assignment that was given out about reducing council seats, which is the way the assignment put it. And there was about, 45-minute conversation among the committee members at the first meeting. About the pros and cons of cutting down council, getting rid of seats, slashing seats from council. And there was a lot of back and forth about, well, we really don't know what we want. We don't know what we ought to do. We don't know how that looks. Let's explore it some more. And then we came today to find out that actually Section 70572 of the revised code that's cited in the original committee legislation assignment, the council assignment, doesn't have anything to do with our city. I do think what we need to make clear here is that this conversation that was had about 22-102 has the potential to come back. Because while the federal plan that was suggested in this committee assignment, which mind you, the federal plan, if we adopted that as a city, if we passed it from a ballot initiative, would eliminate elections for the office of city law director, for city council president, for the city auditor, for the city treasurer, and make all of those appointees under the mayor. If we would adopt this plan or any other plan, even a plan that could get rid of the mayor being an elected office, the council manager plan, if we were to adopt any of those plans, we would lose representation. And I know there are a few people who came here tonight because they don't want us to slash those seats. Could the people who don't want to cut down council seats please stand up? Yeah. So let's just make it real clear. These people who are here don't want you to slash the seats. They don't want it to come back in another committee. They don't want it to come back in another assignment. And they're going to be here each and every time you try to cut down the representation on this council or you try to eliminate the individuals who are going to be here that we can vote on. Our democracy is important. Having 9 members on council is essential. We don't want fewer seats on council. We want our representation as it is. Please don't slash council seats. Know that if it does come back in any form, I'm going to be here, and I have a feeling some of these people will too. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Beverly Wilkes. I live at 156 Hanover Drive in Chiillicothe. You probably know that the temporary library warming station for people experiencing homelessness will close as of April 28th. I also sit on the Continuum of Care, Ross County Continuum of Care, which tries to oversee different agencies and different groups in serving this population. I know Deidre attends those meetings and Allison has too. I appreciate that. More importantly, and more of concern, the emergency shelter at Salvation Army, I don't know if you know or not, but it is closing at the end of April. And we have, in the point in time count, over 150 people who are homeless. That's the way they count that. They have to get on a database, get the people's name on there, so they're individual people, and they try to find them wherever they can. So 150, there's more than that. And with our economy and the situation, a lot of people are facing now. Homelessness is a real possibility. I looked at the committees. I'm learning, and let's see. I think it's the Community Affairs Committee that is assigned the homeless population. So something needs to be done. These are also your citizens and your constituents, and I don't know what to propose because we definitely need money. We need money. I think it costs $50,000 a month to pay for the staffing. You don't want to do a bad job. You really do need to have people that are qualified, that can help, that can connect them to services, et cetera, and make sure it's safe, et cetera. And we need a site. So maybe could the committee work with Julie Boland committee, the COC, and come up with a plan or something? These people are, they will not have shelter. Somehow I think that's not what Chiillicothe wants for its people. Any ideas I'd appreciate. Thank you.
We will now move to.
Sorry, just one more.
Your
Just
timing's impeccable.
My name is John Thacker. I live at 990 Columbus Street, apartment 307, Chiillicothe, Ohio. I want to welcome Mrs. Lamb. If it's the same Mrs. Lamb that I know from Medina High School, she was the kind person who gave me a 1974 yearbook about a year ago. And for that, I want to thank her. I hope I'm not embarrassing you by saying that, but of course, it meant quite a bit to me. And so if I have to do it, I think I did it in private, but I'll do it in public. Thank you very much. And of course, in return for that, she got to see all my political stuff on Facebook, but somebody has to. Deidre does too, unfortunately. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thacker. We'll now move to old business. Does anyone have any old business that they would like to bring up? Mr. Prohl.
I believe that item number 2 may belong to me, so wanting it to be correct, I would make a motion to amend it to read third reading rather than second reading.
Motion by Mr. Prohl, seconded by Mr. Brown. Roll call on that motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Motion passes. Any additional old business? Not seeing any. Participation or correspondence received by the clerk.
none received.
Then to new business. Does anyone have anything new that they would like to bring up at this time? So from there, we'll move on to our legislation. We have 10 items on the agenda this evening. Ms. Lamb, whenever you're ready, please start with item number 1.
Number 1, third reading, a resolution authorizing the appropriate city officials to apply for and enter into an agreement with the Ohio Public Works Commission Grant Funds Program for the year 2024, accepting grant funds if awarded and declaring an emergency.
Roll call on that resolution.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
The resolution passes. Item number 2.
To be a third reading, an ordinance reappropriating funds that were approved and appropriated in 2022 budget and not yet spent or encumbered at the end of 2022 and declaring an emergency.
Roll call on that ordinance.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes, Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Item number 3.
Third reading, an ordinance establishing the pay scale for part-time summer and fall seasonal employees within the Parks and Recreation, swimming pool, service, engineering, administration, and utility departments of the City of Chiillicothe for calendar year 2023.
Roll call on the ordinance.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Item number 4.
Second reading, a resolution expressing cooperation in granting the use of a certain portion of Paint Street to downtown Chiillicothe Brewfest.
That item will move to our next agenda, item number 5.
Second reading, a resolution granting the use of the city park and surrounding streets from Tuesday, May 25th, 2023 at 8 a.m. through Monday, May 29th, 2023 at 11 a.m. for preparation, operation, and cleanup of the annual Feast of the Flowering Moon and Memorial Day Parade, and providing for coordination of the events with the City Parks and Recreation Department.
That item will move to our next agenda, item number 6.
First reading, a resolution expressing cooperation and granting the use of a certain portion of Yaktangi Parkway to Chiillicothe High School for its mock crash event and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer, at this time, I'd like to make a motion we waive the 3-read rule due to time constraints.
Motion by Ms. Henderson, seconded by Mr. Greg Phillips. Roll call on the motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
The motion passes. Roll call on the resolution.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
The resolution passes. Item number 7.
First reading, a resolution expressing cooperation in granting the use of a certain portion of North Paint Street to National Day of Prayer organizers for the local National Day of Prayer event and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer, I move we waive the 3-read rule due to time constraint.
Motion by Ms. Henderson, seconded by Ms. Payne. Roll call on the motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the resolution.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Item number 8.
First reading, an ordinance approving the action of the Planning Commission of the City of Chiillicothe and approving the final plat for the Countryside Meadow subdivision, accepting the public rights-of-way and easements granted within said subdivision and declaring an emergency.
That item will move to our next agenda. Item number 9.
First reading,
Moving to item number 9.
First reading, a resolution expressing cooperation in granting use of a certain portion of East 2nd Street to Downtown Chiillicothe Organization for its 4th annual Oktoberfest event.
This item will move to our next agenda. Item number 10.
First reading, a resolution confirming the appointments of Stacia Porter and Drew Musser to the Design Review Board.
Ms. Payne. Motion by Ms. Payne, seconded by Ms. Nickerson to waive the 3-read rule. Roll call on that motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Phillips, Anthony,
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the resolution.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
and Kroll.
Yes.
The resolution passes. Does anyone have anything else that they would like to bring up or add at this time? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Motion by Ms. Payne, seconded by Ms. Nickerson. Roll call on that motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
President Geringer, I'd like to come back to item 8. I believe Mr. Heskett spoke at our last meeting and discussed the possibility of contracts and such that would be potentially canceled and loss of revenue, tax revenue to the city. Am I out of line to ask to waive the 3-read on this item? Yes, she
I
was out ill.
out sick, so
Yes.
I had no idea of the urgent need for this. So yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
no idea. Okay.
So I move we waive the 3 read on item 8.
I'll
and-
second.
Motion by Ms. Henderson, seconded by Ms. Nickerson to waive the 3 read rule on item number 8.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne, Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne, Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
The ordinance passes.
and
Yes. We'll restart it. Second time. Anyone have any additional items that they would like to add or bring up at this time? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Ms. Payne, seconded by Ms. Henderson. Roll call on that motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne, Nickerson,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Kroll.
Well, there's that one item left that. Oh, okay. Yes.
We are adjourned. Have a wonderful evening.